Totally uncalled for. Hey folks, Kilt-Man here. Kilt-Man at your services. How are you all? I hope you're all doing very, very well. Now, we've got more Romero zombie movies on the way. Yes, we have. Even though Gory George, the grandfather of gore, died in 2017, his legacy of zombie movies, Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, Land of the Dead, Diary of the Dead, and Survival of the Dead. Yeah, they're iconic. They are hugely genre milestones. He's the guy that changed zombies into flesh eaters. They never were beforehand, but when he created them, he made them hungry. But of course, he never got to finish the cycle he started. I know, night, dawn, day, that's it really. But his vision went beyond that. With the success and the cultdom of these movies and the endless fascination for them, George decided to take it further. He was forever exploring society and its ailments, its ills, and how people react under crisis and disaster. The zombies becoming metaphors for many other things. The movies becoming allegories to many societal problems. Very heady stuff, but lots of flesh ripping, guts and entrails, and headshots, and Tom Savini, yes, you know, putting machetes into zombies' heads. Say goodbye, creep. But he didn't finish what he started. As the whole cycle grew on, he thought, well, hang on a minute. I want to wrap this whole thing up now. So he wrote a treatment, basically the entire story, for Twilight of the Dead. Now, that film is getting made. It's in development right now. It's getting made. I have reported on it before. Go back, I think it was last year, I was talking about Twilight of the Dead. And what it appears to be, is part of the Day of the Dead epic screenplay that he wrote, which the MPAA was just going to go, there's no way you're going to get away with any of this. So no chance, no way, Jose. And so a lot of his ideas there, he's took them on board and put them into Twilight of the Dead. Now that's being taken over by his last wife, Susanna, and they've got companies involved in that. That is going ahead. That's happening for definite. And it's set on a tropical island, which sounds like it's a sequel to Day of the Dead, where our heroes, Sarah, I forgot what their names, Sarah, John, and McDermott arrive at the end, and she's pregnant, but they're fishing away on the beach. Everything seems idyllic. Well, it almost has that sort of takes that idea and but no, zombies get on the island as well. So all hell breaks loose. But again, it will be an allegory, a metaphor for the way things are. Mankind forever makes war against himself. Mankind, humanity creates its own problems. Our societal problems are born of ourselves, and we end up devouring each other. And that's what George was saying all along. But no, that's Twilight of the Dead. We've got another one. Yeah, another Romero's attached to it. Tina Romero, George's daughter, from his second marriage. He had a few marriages, did George. And she is a DJ in New York, but she's done a few indie short movies, played festivals, fringe circuit sort of thing, and she's from the gay community, the gay, lesbian, LGBT. I'm going to get completely lost on that. All them other bits and bobs with a big plus sign at the end of it. She's from that community, and she's making a film called Queens of the Dead. Now, being that she's from New York, I thought at first, oh, Queens as in the New York borough, Queens. No, that's not what it means. No, Queens means drag queens and mincing queens. Yes, it does. Sorry, I don't want to mince my words here. Now, when I heard about this, literally about 2 days ago, I thought, oh, I've got to do a video on this. I was, as you'd expect, because you guys know my opinions on certain matters, I thought, oh, I'm going to have to lambast this. Well, you know what? I'm not going to lambast it. I've read deeper into it, she is George Romero's daughter. And, you know, whatever she wants to be, that's fine. You shouldn't have to put caveats before stating your opinions. But these days, you do. I mean to cause absolutely no offence. It doesn't bother me one iota. I just don't like things being rammed down my throat with agendas and narrative. I don't like that. And at first I thought, this is just clearly another woke, inclusive. We're gonna put ourselves out there. Because the first quotes that I heard from her were, I'm gonna carry on my father's legacy, which I thought, I don't think George had this in mind, but you're his daughter, maybe you know better. And but I'm going to read out to you the deeper interview, which kind of changed my opinion a little bit. I'll be honest, it's a zombie gay-centric rom-com, a zom-com. And already you're going, how the hell does that fit into George's legacy of zombie movies? Well, it kind of doesn't, but it kind of does in some ways. But I'll defer to Tina's opinion because she's making the movie and she has every right to make it. But we'll read on. Cheers, y'all. And look at that. I'm on the verge of my own apocalypse here because there ain't much of this left. Oh no. I'm like McDermott in Day of the Dead. The drunken telecommunications guy. Oh, what is that bit when they realise that Captain Rogue's Joe Pilato is gonna go crazy? Steele, shoot that woman. Bang, you're dead. Steele, you shoot that woman, I'll shoot you. Sarah, sit down. You've got Terry Alexander playing the Caribbean helicopter pilot. When they realise the military faction, are going to just take over and destroy the scientists there in this underground bunker. It's not working out. They're not getting along, are they? And Terry Alexander's John says, Captain Rhodes, he's very human, and that's what concerns me. He won't shoot Billy because he's got no one else who knows electronics. He won't shoot me because I'm his ride. He won't shoot old Dr. Frankenstein because the old doc can talk him silly. But you guys, you better start worrying, don't you know? That's Sarah and John Amplis playing another scientist whose name I've forgotten, his character's name, because the factions are breaking down. But it's wonderful stuff. And George nailed how people react under duress and times of crisis. Some bond together and save each other, but most form factions because human beings are very tribal in nature. We're never going to eradicate that. That's in our DNA. Whether it's DNA from outer space, I don't know. I'm not going down that rabbit hole. But see how it's gone dark in here now? We had massive rainstorms again this morning, torrential rain, and now it's cleared up. Blue skies, binging sunshine. But binging sunshine means it's bright for 1 second, then a cloud comes over, and then we go into darkness again. I do apologise for this, but hey, it's living life on the hoof, So, and here's a husky, just to make things even more unpredictable. Hello, hon. Yes, it's lumbering past because it wants to go out. Hold that thought. Right, come on, hon. Come on, babes. Always. Never work with children or animals. Well, I'm okay because I've fed all the children to the animals. Hey! So, right. So she's making her version now. And it's a gay-centric zom-com. Okay. Right, let's just read on, shall we? George Romero's daughter, Tina Romero, is looking to honour her father's legacy and create her own gory, queer zom-com, Queens of the Dead. And she's speaking with Fangoria. That's Fangoria magazine. Oh, how we love and revere Fangoria. Romero explained how her zombie movie would be like a conga line through the zombie apocalypse. I quite like that line, actually, because if you're going to go it, if you're going to do this, do it, you know. It's going to be a conga line through the zombie apocalypse. I really believe that zombie movies should be fun, and my hope is that audiences find this movie to be a fun ride that's packed with some good jump scares and some yummy gore and some pretty amusing characters. Okay. I mean, initially when I heard this sort of soundbite, I was like, oh, this ain't right. And, you know, George will be spinning in his grave. But of course he won't be. This is his daughter making it. So, what's the story of Queens of the Dead? Romero explained. Queens of the Dead sees Tina Romero put a modern spin on the zombie movie. Modern spin. Straight away, if you hadn't heard anything else, you'd be thinking, by modern spin, we all know what that means. Look at Doctor Who now, the modern spin on Doctor Who. Or rather, don't look at Doctor Who. For God's sake, don't look at Doctor Who now. But a modern spin means inclusivity, diversity. Yes. But that's good. But we know how bad that can be as well. Because that means suddenly you don't have dwarfs in Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. But you have every ethnic minority is going to be thrown in their place. But no dwarfs, you know. Time Bandits won't be dwarfs either. They're normal-sized people. Again, of ethnic minorities. It's inclusivity and diversity. But no dwarfs. You've forgotten them. So, you know, it's a double-edged sword. It's double standards is what it is. Anyway, right. Queens of the Dead. It takes place over one night at the beginning of the Dead Rising. We find ourselves at a big warehouse party in Bushwick. Bushwick is in Brooklyn, for those who don't know. We've got a party promoter for whom everything's going wrong, and her lead actor's dropped out, so she needs to call upon a friend, a retired drag queen, to resurrect his drag and come and save the night. And it turns out to be a night of many resurrections. I'm sure. And our motley crew of characters find themselves holed up in a Bushwick nightclub, having to decide, do we get out of here or do we board the place up? And we've got to survive the night. It's about a group of non-fighters finding the survival skills deep within. Now, I like that because that's Night of the Living Dead. That's all the movies. That's the entire encapsulation of the characters in the movies. Okay, you've got SWAT Team Supremos, Roger and Peter in Dawn of the Dead. You've got a bunch of rogue military clowns in Day of the Dead. You've got the guy that drives Dead Reckoning in Land of the Dead. People should appreciate that movie a lot more. There's a lot more ideas in that. And it's really enjoyable as well. While Tina Romero is keen to make her movie distinct from her father's work, she's equally keen to honour the likes of Dawn of the Dead. So, you know, you need to remember that. She's keen to make her movie distinct from her father's work. So she's not, like, I thought at first, from some of the quotes, I thought she's trying to make this fit in with Romero's, her father's cycle of movies. The dog slurping water there. And I thought, you're not going to make that fit. That can't possibly fit. But she's making it distinct, right? Well, honouring his movies. So flesh-eating zombies, obviously. Right? My dad created this monster in the form that we all know it, and he used it as a way to look at society over the course of several decades. We'll analyse this a bit more. Tina said at the top of the interview before, later explaining further, my dad's zombies were always reflecting what was going on in the world, and I always feel the responsibility to take the torch and keep the Romero zombie alive, upholding, respecting, paying homage to it, whilst also introducing myself and my own voice as a filmmaker and my own perspective, which is different from his. I absolutely, totally respect that. It's her movie, she can do what she wants. And as we'll find out, it's not like she, like the maker of Doctor Who, forcing agendas, forcing things so much, and so many other movies, really forcing this home. So you must accept everybody, you know, and we're going to change, we're going to have James Bond as a gay black person who's non-binary, you know. That's what so many people want to do. So many creators want to do by just, instead of doing their own stories, are going to take an archetype, an icon, and we're going to change it to our own way of thinking. We're minorities, but we're going to make the majority sit up and pay attention. And it becomes just torturous and like, oh, stop, please stop. But I'm getting what she's saying here. And I didn't think I would do, but I am. So let's look at it again. My dad created this monster in the form that we all know it. Blah, blah. He used it to look at as a way to look at society over the course of several decades. I don't think he did at first. Like the Living Dead was a reflection of what's happening in Vietnam. It was also a reflection on corruption in politics, the media, people being alienated, the end of flower power. A lot of things were there. It was also heavily influenced by Richard Matheson's classic I Am Legend, of course, and just zombies. Let's make a low-budget horror movie, independent horror movie. Because of its huge success, he made other movies, of course, which we'll come on to, I think. But Dawn of the Dead, really, that was the big epic. That was the huge. It's still the biggest of all the zombie movies. It is sprawling, vast. I love it. It's a classic. It's a masterpiece. I don't regard it as a horror movie. It's a horror movie in its greater context, the zombie apocalypse. But individually, the zombies, they're pathetic. They're meant to be. They're almost sympathetic. They're not frightening. There's no real jump scares in Dawn of the Dead. Nothing like that. There's action, cartoon, comic book action aplenty. There's slapstick with the bikers and the custard pies. Splatstick, you could say. But there is racial tension. There is rampant, blind consumerism. They're poking a satire at. The designated areas for ethnic minorities in the big cities, inner city strife, media manipulation is in there as well. And the whole breakdown of society, how it falls apart, how it likes to point the finger at the scientists, it's your fault, and they don't listen to the scientists either on the TV broadcasts and interviews. They take the piss out of them. They don't even listen to these guys who might offer up a solution. Well, we know how that doesn't work. But that's mankind for you. So Dawn of the Dead really does reflect the 70s, the nihilism, the disbelief in governments and politics, and the entire law enforcement, authoritarianism. It pokes the middle finger up at the whole thing and says, look, you take away the veneer of society. This is what we're like. We end up eating each other. Maybe not, literally, but metaphorically, that's the right word, and figuratively. And it's clever. Day of the Dead, it brings that down. It coalesces it down to literally what you see, a fragment of society which cannot get along, tribalism. But that wasn't reflecting what was happening at the time. So I think what she says there about Romero's films, use it as a way to look at society over the course of several decades. I don't think that's entirely true. I can see what she's thinking about, but I don't personally buy into that. Diary of the Dead, unbelievably, actually does, because you have the whole found footage thing going on, which I detest. And I thought, even though I don't like Diary of the Dead so much, it's a lot better than a lot of the found footage movies, which I do hate and abhor. Like The Blair Witch, got a lot to answer for, you really are. So I think he reflected that, sort of modern technology and modern societal standards, almost fledgling social media as well. So he did look at it, he did focus the zombies through that kind of lens at that time. And then you got Survival of the Dead, which, well, where the hell does that go? Zombies on horseback, it's going back to Western. It was reflecting nothing really. It clearly didn't get the budget it deserved, and his ideas just never really translated, which is why he wanted to do Twilight of the Dead. But again, I don't see how that's going to reflect too much of modern society. But I don't know yet. Don't know, obviously. hasn't been made. But clearly that's what she's doing, reflecting modern society. And modern society does not love to bring in, you know, sexual genders and sexual politics and, you know, identities, all this sort of thing, and ethnic minorities, everything, diversity, inclusivity. That's what she's bringing into it. But that is a reflection of today's world, because all of media is doing it, all of society is doing it, all of industry is doing it. So that is exactly what she's doing. And I don't actually have a problem with her doing that. I don't. Right, anyway, so what she says here, I almost feel the responsibility to take the torch and keep the Romero zombie alive. So a big flesh-eating, slow-moving zombie. I'm presuming not going to be running. Upholding, respecting, paying homage to it, whilst also introducing myself and my own voice as a filmmaker. I applaud that. She's got her own viewpoint and she wants to put that across. Brilliant. And my own perspective, which is different from his, different from her dad's. Fine, she totally and utterly admits that. Tina Romero, DJ of the Dead. Tina Romero already has a successful career as a New York City club DJ, as DJ, now it says TRX, but is that like tricks? I don't know how you pronounce these things. Is it just DJ TRX? I don't know. Furthermore, her job helped fuel the inspiration for Queens of the Dead. I've just thought about TRX, Project Trixie from The Crazies, which will come on to George Romero's film The Crazies, the biological warfare weapon, Trixie, codename Trixie. Right, her job as a DJ helped fuel the inspiration for Queens of the Dead. Now listen to this, and this is what kind of made me warm to this idea. There was a party I DJ'd regularly. It was a beloved weekly party, and one year, one of the co-promoters broke off and started a rival party on the same night. It was a big drama. I'm sure it was. And there was a big social media war. Ooh. And the original promoter posted this manifesto that begged the question, when will the queer community stop devouring its own? You can see where she suddenly thought of queer community devouring, zombie apocalypse with, LGBT, I got that wrong again. And it kind of hit me like a bolt of lightning. I was like, oh my God, this is the way into the genre for me. I want to look at zombies through the lens of going out and specifically within this community. Look, that's fine. That's not her looking for an excuse to bring all this in. That's the environment and the community which she lives in and breathes. And suddenly, I love my dad's stuff, and how am I going to do a film like that, but with my own perspective? Oh, no. That quote itself, when will the queer community stop devouring its own? And suddenly that spark went off. And I actually totally agree. I think that's quite a great sort of segue into what she's doing. Queens of the Dead is set to begin shooting this summer with an eye for a 2025 release. Now, I don't like the title, Queens of the Dead. I don't, because I suppose in a way, if she'd done, because it's of the dead, which is a Romeroism. All the films are like that. Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead. Well, it's Night of the Living Dead. So you've actually got one. It starts off that way, then they drop living out of it, but it's still of the dead. And the rest are all like that. But Queens of the Dead doesn't really fit in with that because of what it obviously means. Drag queens or just the gay community. But it's still of the dead, so it's still, and Romero's name will be above it, so it's going to fit in. Anyway, now what else did she say? Because it's about sexuality as well. Now I started thinking, well, what did Romero do that with George Romero that had sexual context to it? And I thought at first that there isn't any. There just isn't. But there is. Of course there is. He covers racism in Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead especially. And certainly in Day of the Dead, there's a lot of racial tension and insults are thrown about. But there's no sexuality at all in Night of the Living Dead, apart from the nude model as a zombie. But beyond that, there's nothing. No one turns their attention on the two ladies there in the farmhouse. In that, well, there's actually 4 ladies. There's a little girl as well, and her mother down in the basement. But that doesn't rear its ugly head at all. In Dawn, well, Fran's pregnant, but there's no thought of rape when the bikers get in there. There's nothing like that takes place, and it's very far removed. You don't remotely think of sexuality in Dawn of the Dead, apart from Stephen isn't going to get his end away at one point, but that's a montage sequence. There's nothing in there. Day of the Dead, yeah, it does, and it's quite overt. The language gets very fruity, because of course Sarah has Miguel, who's her boyfriend, and there's a lot of angsty stuff between the soldiery who are jealous. They want a bit, and Captain Rhodes, of course, like, give us all a chance at some action, you know, like. And there's a few other quotes which I'm not going to say right here, but so it is there. In Land of the Dead, no, I don't think there is at all. You've got Asia Argento plays, well, she's in Fiddler's Green, and that sounds rude anyway, and but she's a prostitute there. She's a hooker who's been thrown to the zombies because she's working with the guy who's going to try to get the lower classes out to safety, or stage a coup against Dennis Hopper. But other than that, I don't think there's anything in there. Diary and Survival, no, I don't think there's anything at all. But his earlier movies, like Jack's Wife, aka Season of the Witch, well, I think it's hinted at, it's alluded to. Sexual politics, perhaps. The Crazies does have sexuality in it, because Trixie, again, the biological warfare weapon, when it's infected all these people, you've got the father and daughter, and an incestuous thing takes place, and which is obviously distressing and discomforting. But of course, they're suffering with the effects of of Trixie. You've got Martin. Now Martin, John Amplis, a younger John Amplis, playing the vampire. Is he a vampire? Whatever. Early Thomas Savini effects, but pretty effective. He gets the girl on the train, and yeah, I mean, you think it's going to be a rape, but it's not. He's after their blood. So again, it's not really a sexual sort of orientated. What else is there? Creep Show. Well, an affair takes place, which puts Ted Danson and Galen Ross up to their necks in trouble on the beach. But nah, there's nothing in that really, is there? I don't think. The Dark Half, no, not really. Again, so I don't think George has ever really looked at that side of things. But if what his daughter's saying is what she genuinely believes, that his films, if he got to make a film now, it would reflect upon society's upheaval and geopolitical and socio-political chaos that we're all in now. Educational strife. No one knows what a woman is these days. The NHS is renaming certain wards to take the word women's out of it. And this is true. And this is going ridiculous. So, but if she's assuming that her dad would have maybe looked at that in some kind of way, maybe he would. We're never going to know. But she's doing it for him. So, but in her own movie, her own style. But the thing is, this is the thing that's actually going to drive me away from. Well, there's several reasons. I'll be honest right now. I don't want to see it. I'm talking about the film now, and I'm applauding it getting made. But I don't want to see it. It's not my sort of thing. I don't want to see a zom-com, a gay-centric zom-com. That's my choice. I don't want to see that. It could be great. And if people say, actually, you do want to see this, it's really funny, the gore is great, and it's actually really clever and quite exciting, then I'll go, yeah, okay, maybe I will then. But at the moment, no, I applaud it getting made, and I wish it well. But but it's not for me. It just isn't. Well, I don't like, I like Shaun of the Dead. I was going to say, I don't like zombie comedies, but I do love Shaun of the Dead because, well, Simon Pegg, you know, Nick Frost, it works. It really works. You know, it's clever, it's funny, it respects the genre, but the anarchic humour and the realistic dialogue and characterizations ground it, and then you bring in the zombies, and it's so clever and funny that it's genius. And it definitely pays massive respect to Romero's work. Of course it does. And then, but you've got the likes of strippers versus werewolves, cockneys versus zombies, and there's other things as well. There's other 7777 versus this and that and the other. But by and large, I'm not massively a fan of the comedy slant. And she's clearly said it's a zom-com, but with colourful, crazy characters. Yeah, I don't know. It sounds like a cross between From Dusk Till Dawn, Vamp, even Return of the Living Dead to a degree, with a sort of minority group of characters, punks. And what a bizarre bunch of punks they are. You've got meat with chains and studs everywhere and body piercings. You've got trash, Linnea Quigley, of course. But you've got those two yuppies in there. What? How the hell? And what's her face? The girlfriend of what's his face, who's been infected by a sort of tricksy toxicology canister. Yeah, they're all connected and very loosely. But what are they doing with this group of punks? It just doesn't work. But it's so anarchic and OTT that it does come together in the end, and it's a classic in its own right. And I have covered it somewhere on the channel, I'm sure I have. But there's room in the world for this movie without getting up in arms. Because I've already seen on forums quite a volatile backlash against it. But I'm sure Tina Romero expected that, because that's just the nature of the beast, I'm afraid. But I'm happy it's going to get made. It's not for me. It's not my kind of movie, I don't think. But unless you bring Tom Savini on board, and suddenly I'll be like, oh God, I've got to watch it now, damn it. Cheers, y'all. So it's a zombie movie for that community. What's wrong with that? Why can't they have zombie movies? Of course they can. Just don't nick, other cultural bloody icons. You could totally and utterly nick Doctor Who. God, I cannot believe that. And I've had people messaging me today about like the latest Doctor Who. Oh, it brings in one of your favourite Doctor Who shows ever, The Pyramids of Mars and Sutekh the Destroyer. Yeah, but no. I am not watching this modern Doctor Who. I gave up on Doctor Who years and years and years before. David Tennant killed it off for me. I thought he was great in season 1. And then I grew sick and tired of him constantly whining, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. I'm every alien and beast and race he met, he had to go and destroy, but I'm so sorry. Shut up! And just before doing this video, as the Euros were starting as well, I caught a trailer for next week's Doctor Who, which is a Doctor Who finale. And I watched it and I thought, oh dear God, it looked garbage, tripe. And at the end of it, as the Doctor Who logo came up, you heard the new Doctor say, I'm so sorry. And I thought, oh, fucking hell. That's an example of where this whole thing has gone wrong, as far as I'm concerned. Do your own. Stop taking other people's and like reimagining it, remanufacturing it, fabricating it in your own style. Do your own stuff. God, no one's going to stop you. Just get on with it, crack on. And this is doing exactly that. So, good luck. Good luck with it. I hope it's successful. I hope it does well. Yeah, she sounds like she could have a unique voice within the genre. So let's hope you've got some of your dad's filmmaking stylistic traits. You've got a couple of successful short movies under your belt. You're already a well-known commodity in that community and in that borough as well. So a film set there, yeah, it's gonna do well. I'd love to see it. I'd love to see a zombie film other than The Walking Dead. I know it's not a film, but where you see them in the cities. Yeah, I know you had, what was it, Army of the Dead in Vegas and all that, but where they're actually en masse in the city streets. There was always talk of showing a Romero zombie movie, a zombie-style, Romero-style zombie movie, showing the takeover in other cities, which never really got off the ground, where you'd see like the armed forces and the National Guard being overwhelmed and taken down. Now, we'd all love to see that, because it hasn't happened. Now, Romero did show, George Romero, a little bit of the city in Dawn of the Dead, and obviously you've got Land of the Dead has a city in it, but it's a fictional city that they've built themselves, you know, and walled themselves in. But you do see zombies in shopping malls, but you see them on the city streets as well. But the big full-scale battle, the takedown of society, that's what you want to see. Listen, this is the original score to Night of the Living Dead, 68. And here's like the zombies it's stopped. The zombies were taking all the entrails and like.
If I were surrounded by 6 or 8 of these things, would I stand a chance with them? Well, there's no problem. If you had a gun, shoot them in the head. That's a sure way to kill them. If you don't, get yourself a club or a torch. Beat them or burn them. They go up pretty easy. Are they slow moving, Chief? Yeah, they're dead.
They're all messed up. I mean, he really struck a chord, Romero, because it hit the nihilistic attitude of the end of flower power and the whole, you know, love-in cycle. Vietnam was on TV all the time, grainy black and white footage of people burning from napalm attacks, wounds and injuries on American GIs, villages on fire. It was pretty damn nasty. So you couldn't have cozy little sweet horror movies. Oh, let's cuddle up with a bit of Hammer or a bit of Universal, which you guys know how much I love both of those entire genres and styles. But things had to be changed up, and Romero definitely did it. It's funny how the late 60s, 68, 69, changed everything in every genre. The westerns, war movies, horror movies, comedies. You've got sex comedies now. Things were more overt, things were more graphic, explicit, and your heroes weren't so much heroes anymore. They were amoral. But anyway, and endings didn't have a happy ending. And that's another thing which, another trope of Romero, George Romero again, is that you'd have groups of good guys who, and some of them might survive. So you had hope, but the next movie would prove that it's all hopelessness, because the cycle will repeat itself again. The zombies are still out there, and you're going to meet other factions of humans who are not going to be as friendly. So it's not a world you want to be in at all. Folks, anyway, I think there's a lot of food for thought here. I hope I haven't spoke out of turn. You know, I'm only saying what I think, what I feel. I'm entitled to do that. But I'm looking forward to it. I don't want to see it, but I hope it gets made and it does well. And who knows, if someone says, do you know what, actually, it's really good. It's genuinely funny. It's exciting. There are some proper jump scares, like she says, and some yummy gore, as she says as well. So, if I can be convinced, I'm totally on board. But I want it, and I applaud it to be made. Totally fine with that. So, a lot of the naysayers out there, well, you know, and I said there was no sexualization. Oh no. A lot of critics read into the death, the zombie killing her mother with a trowel, about the penetration of that, and like people see things that aren't there, and they make illusions, and like, oh, I've got my theory, and I'm gonna make what I've seen fit my theory. Bullshit. It's a nightmarish sequence, And again, it shows the zombies do, you know, pick up tools and use them as tools. And as you see throughout all of the movies, I don't know what they're going to be picking up in this movie, but they're fighting drag queens and taffeta, darling, taffeta. So I don't know. There'll be a lot of references, and unavoidably, and it could be hysterically funny. Again, I don't want an hysterically funny zom-com. I don't really want that. I'm happy for it to exist, but I'm not into that either. Apart from Shaun of the Dead, that's pretty much it really. Comedy, zombies. Anyway, folks, I look forward to your comments on this. There's more to talk about as well. There is a certain YouTuber I'm not going to name, and all his videos are just about lambasting movies coming out and looking at box office takings, and it's real. He does about 10 videos a day. I don't watch them, but they come up and I see them, and they're just, I'm going to become him today. Because I've got a few more movies to talk about and a few more developments to talk about. So folks, in the meantime, and this ever stop waffling in between time, please keep it kilted, keep it Celtic, and I'm going to see you all. And Tina Romero, good luck. No, I mean it, good luck.